Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today.
A little bit about unconventional marketing strategies. And why don't we start by just having you introduce yourself and why you call yourself the unconventional creative type of marketer.
Yeah, so my name is Jai Long. I'm a business coach, and predominantly my audience is photographers at the moment. I've been an entrepreneur for about 16 years now, and I've been doing marketing for all my businesses for the last 16 years. I've built many 6-figure and 7-figure businesses, and I've currently got quite a few different businesses. And I think marketing is one of my most favorite things, marketing and sales. And I do believe a lot of businesses don't do marketing very well, and that's why they probably sort of struggle with their leads, and they definitely don't do sales very well. So it's one superpower that I've had that's helped me do the things that I do, and I get to share it with the world, which is really cool.
Love that. Awesome. So why do you love marketing? Because a lot of people hate marketing.
Marketing is really fun because all it is, it's been really creative. So I'm really creative. So it's like one of the most creative aspects of your business. You get to sort of control the narrative, create something to get your stuff out to the world. I also love analytics. So I'm like, both side brain. So it's like you do the creative thing and then you got the data output and you can see like if it worked and if it didn't work. So yeah, I think you get to flex those creative skills, and the more that you put in your own time and energy and creativity into it, generally the better the outcome's going to be. So I think it's really important not to do lazy marketing and just pay for an ad or do something like that. I think it's important to stand out and do something a little bit unconventional.
I love that. Awesome.
Yeah.
So can you give an example of an unconventional idea or way that you could go about marketing?
Totally. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like marketing has one purpose, and that's just to get attention. So getting attention is like a lot of us, we don't have attention. We want to get omnipresent. So we want to be able to be seen and be known in the marketplace, wherever that is. I think a lot of people are very passive with this. And so passive could be, posting on Instagram and hoping that we're going to get a couple of followers and things like that. And I think a good example is sort of like extroverting yourself into the market and pushing yourself into the market by maybe hosting like a big event or collaborating with a bunch of people or doing a publicity stunt, doing something that will sort of break the mold and like people can't not take notice of you. I think that's basically the key of it.
Nice. So being so good they can't ignore you is kind of like that Jim Rohn quote or whoever said that at some point. So what about if somebody's like, well, I don't have creative ideas. I'm new to this. I don't know how to market myself. What would be some ideas to get their creative juices flowing?
Creativity is creating, and everyone creates. Like someone's created their breakfast this morning. Someone like you created this live reel right now. So we all create. And so I think it's a very limiting belief thinking that we're not creative and we haven't got ideas, because you literally have lots. You just probably think a lot of them are bad ideas and they're not worth pursuing. So I don't think it's like to do with like how creative that we are or if we're not, but it's to do with like how can we filter whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. And honestly, the best way to do that is by growing your confidence, and you do that with volume. And so it's like creating a lot of things and having the humility to fail a lot of times, and it creates for you, your baseline of what you know works for your business, your audience, your product, your offer, like whatever it is. So I think so many people, what we do is we copy what everyone else does because we think that's what is needed to be done. So I need to create reels because everyone else does. I need to start a podcast because everyone else does. And then all we do is we add to the noise. And marketing, good marketing is alleviating the noise and making you the right choice. So it's doing the opposite. So if you see everybody else doing it and you're doing it because you think that's what you have to do, then you're probably not marketing well. But if you've got a really good idea where you're like, I haven't seen anyone do this before, then I suggest like the best thing to do is take action on that thing. And then from there, you're going to see if it works or not. You're not going to hear it from some guru on the internet or some course or anything. Really, the best way to market is actually getting out there and showing it over and over and over and over.
I agree. Yes. So being able to take what we call massive action, where you keep showing up until it works, until your message is heard, until you figure out what you love doing and what your audience is resonating with. So when it comes to, and I love that you shared that good marketing is not just adding to the noise. So how do we, in our messaging and in our communication, communicate what we do, but not just quote unquote add to the noise or, you know, be boring, or like, what are some tips to show up from that powerful place?
I think there's like two probably main things that we can do. So one main thing is when you lean into yourself and your past experiences and what you do, there is no denying that you have something special to bring to the world. And I think that it doesn't add to the noise because now you've got a perspective that's worth listening to because it's very different to everybody else. It's not just, you know, saying the same thing as everybody else. And I think one of the biggest downfalls is we get on reels and stuff. I've literally seen this, especially in the coaching space and stuff like that. Someone reads a book and then they just repeat the same thing that everybody says. And then it's like, man, we've heard it all. You're flooding the place. And then they wonder why, like, they're getting no leads and nothing's happening, right? So I think, like, if you have gone out there and done something and you do something and you document that thing and you show the world and go, this might not work for you, but this is what I do. This is my perspective. This is how I built $1 million business. This is how I built, you know, my wedding photography business. This is how I built my clothing brand. And you can come from that space. Nobody can deny the fact that you did that stuff. And so you're coming from a place of action, like you're saying, opposed to, I heard someone else say this on Instagram, I'm going to make a reel because I know it's trending. You're adding to the noise. And I think the second thing is, so adding to the noise, I don't know what the second thing is actually.
That's okay. It happens. So you want to not just, I really like the idea
I do
of
know
how,
what the second thing is.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Sorry, wait. It's the messaging that you put out at the certain time. So I think adding to the noise a lot of the time is you misread the room, and you actually, Layla just joined us and I talked about this in the mastermind yesterday. You join the room and you misread what's happening out there in the world, and you don't communicate with what's actually happening. So you're kind of like oblivious to the elephant in the room. And so a lot of us do this. We just like create content over and over because it worked last year or because it worked last month, or because it's working for somebody else, but it's not the right communication at the right time. So for example, right now, like less people have as much expandable income. Interest rates are going up, inflation's skyrocketing. There's a lot of weight on people's minds with like how much things cost and stuff. And so maybe the communication that you had last year where you got to invest shitloads of money into something, it may not be the right communication this year or with your audience and stuff. So I think timely, it's really important to be in the discussion where people are what they're thinking of right now, and that will break you out of the noise and into something that's worth listening to.
Love that. Yeah. So timeliness and making sure, I love the idea of doing how I did XYZ, because you're right. No one can debate your own, method, and it is probably going to resonate with some people. And it's really a good way. What's that? Sorry.
I said, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So one question I would have for you, because this actually was something that I hear from newbies, is sometimes they want to do partnership marketing. So they'll want to like be on a podcast, or they want to do like an Instagram live with somebody or collaborate with another brand. And they feel a lot of times, because they're newer, meaning they don't have an audience of, 200,000 followers, that they have nothing to bring to the table. And you mentioned earlier, like, we all have ideas, we all have creativity, we all have something to bring of value. But maybe they just don't feel confident, and they feel like, what do I even have to bring to the table? I don't have a huge following. How would you address, and how would you maybe be creative in a partnership or collaboration type of exchange, instead of just thinking, I'm not good enough and I'm not going to try?
Well, I mean, a few things here. If you do feel like you're not good enough, you're not going to try, I do suggest you go and see a therapist, because that's probably where you need to start with that. There's like a lot of unpacking to do there. And if you feel like you got no value, then you need to go and work on yourself. Like, business coaches and stuff probably shouldn't be giving out advice on what we need to work on with our mental health. It's really important that we do look after ourselves and we take that stuff seriously. I know I go see my therapist every single week to look after myself and all that stuff. So I think collaborations, like, I think you're probably feeling some sort of imposter syndrome because you're reaching too high. Yeah, if you've only got 200 followers, then maybe you should collaborate with 10 other people with 200 followers. Like, for me, I've got 60,000 followers. I generally only can collaborate with people that have 60,000 followers. Someone with 1 million followers won't collaborate with me. And I get that. And I understand that their time to build that 1 million followers took a long time, and they're in the league that's different to the league that I'm in, which is different to the league that someone's got 200 followers in, right? When I see someone with a lot of followers, the things that I see is, I'm like, fuck, that took a lot of work, a lot of hustle, and like, good for you for getting there. And then so when I see that, I'm like, I want to get there as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see people in my field, and then I'm going to collaborate, and then we're going to build each other up. So throughout my career, like, I've always collaborated with people wherever I'm at the exact same price point, the exact same offer, the exact same following count, whatever it is. And then we swap ideas, and I can help each other. And then we've grown together. I do believe collaborations is the best way to market yourself. Like, I always go back to the 90s and the early 2000s when I used to watch like Dr. Dre and Eminem and Snoop Dogg and Exhibit and 50 Cent. All these people would create albums where they're all on each other's album. Like, no one tried to just do it alone. And we kind of lost that a little bit. Now we all think we are the hero, and we all need to do it alone so we can prove to everyone that we're amazing. And I think in the pursuit of that, we push a lot of people away, a lot of opportunities, and we end up losing because we don't have a community around us. So instead of doing that, having the humility of realizing that a lot of people bring stuff to the table just like you do, and then leaning on their superpowers, bring your superpowers, and then making it work together. You can create some amazing stuff together, but not everything has to be alone. Collaborations is the fastest and easiest and most powerful way that you can get your brand out into the marketplace, and that you can grow a following, and that you can, extrovert yourself into the marketplace. But as I said at the start, if you're feeling imposter syndrome and stuff, like, go see a therapist. It's time. If that's how you're feeling right now, there's more at play there.
Yeah. You have to have a good, solid, strong mindset to be an entrepreneur in the first place. And then the strategy part is very addressable. But I agree, like, mindset is really key, especially because this is a different type of path that, a lot of people don't take. And then they don't even have to
Totally.
face certain, I think entrepreneurship brings up some of your mindset stuff, actually, because it's such a personal development path. So one question for you is, you mentioned that collaborations are one of your favorites. So what's your favorite way of collaborating? Is it podcasts? Is it something else? What's your favorite way to collab?
Yeah, it's probably doing bigger events together. Like, I think so often we try to go and do all this little stuff. So what I do is I work out value and how fast something can go. So for instance, if you just did a reel every day and you smashed that out, and then you just kept showing up and you didn't want to do that, what else could you do that month? Just one thing instead of doing the 30 things. And then I would think, what about if you just did one thing per year instead of doing, 360 things? So for instance, if you just wrote one book, and then you partnered with everybody, you got a PR team, and then you got on the news, and you shared it, and you collaborated, and you hosted a big launch event and stuff. Like, could that one thing get you so much further than doing 360 things by yourself? you know, and it takes way less time. So I've done this through all my businesses. So one business I had is I was a wedding photographer for a long time. And so I hosted my own like wedding expo in my town or in my city, where we brought all the best of the best into one room, and then we sold tickets to it. And then everyone had a big following, same following as me. And then we all shared, we brought magazines in, we brought the blogs, we brought media, everything else. And then at the end of that day, like I think I grew like, you know, 10,000 followers. I got all the work that I needed to get and everything else. And I was like, man, that was so much better than hustling on social media all year long, you know, or I do that now. It's like I run like bigger events with more speakers at it. It's like you're collaborating with the right people, with the right audience. You get to prop them up and they get to prop you up. And it's like, it's something that's beautiful when you get to work with other people, especially if you help them. Like for me now, like I can collaborate with people that do have maybe less of a following or less of a name in the industry and stuff. And it feels amazing to be able to bring people up as people brought me up. And people still bring me up as well, which is really cool. So yeah, I think it's bigger events is definitely something that moves the needle the most. But I mean, other things is like just the reason why you started a podcast, probably. It means like you get to speak with me. I'm on a podcast right now with you. It's like you're sharing audiences, and it's a great way to meet people in the industry.
Yeah, I love that. And I like the different way to look at it as far as, can I do one big thing instead of 10,000 small little things? And
Totally.
really, obviously, that requires planning and taking some time to navigate what that's going to be. But what would you say is one of the hardest things you see your clients dealing with when it comes to marketing and sales, and how you help them through that?
Um, I think, to be honest, what they see is their biggest problem isn't actually their biggest problem, which is really funny. So what I see as their biggest problem is different to what they think their biggest problem is. Their biggest problem, they believe in their minds, is that the market's saturated. They're probably not good enough, as good as everybody else to compete, and they think a lot about competing. Um, and I know that like it's not true. Like the market's not saturated. And there's no clients out there going like, man, the market's too saturated. I wish there was less people in the marketplace. Like it just doesn't work like that. Like they want more people. They want it more niche. They want, you know, this and that. They want more options. They want more price points. And so yeah, I think their belief is the market's saturated and they're not as good as somebody else or whatever it is. And what they really are struggling with is them tapping into themselves and being unapologetically themselves and like pushing themselves into the marketplace, regardless if they think they're as good as everybody else and everything. I think the most powerful thing that they could do, like, for example, there's a lot of wedding photographers tuning in right now. I can see them coming in. So when I was a wedding photographer, I followed 9 people. And it's not because I was a dick and I just didn't want to follow people. It's because I wasn't strong enough to look at what everyone else is doing and then be influenced. Like I was always influenced by their work, what they were doing, where they're marketing, how good they are, you know, all that kind of stuff. And like, I don't care what everybody else is doing, honestly. I don't watch the news. I don't watch my competitors. I don't look at other people's websites. I don't do an ICA and check what everyone else is doing. Like I don't look them up on Instagram. I don't watch that content. I don't watch other coaches. I don't watch other educators. I just don't care. And I think the most important thing is it's like, what makes me tick right now? And I look deep down in that and then I bring that out. And when I do bring that out, people resonate with it because it's also a new perspective that no one's ever heard before. So I believe that's the thing that I can help them with. So I do a lot of mindset stuff and helping people find their power in themselves because they've got a fucking amazing spark. And the problem is they just don't have the clarity or the knowledge to know that that spark is the thing that's going to make them really successful.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can remember when I first like was starting out, I definitely looked a lot more at what other people were doing. And nowadays I feel like I don't at all. And I don't know if it was from just being new and trying to like soak it all up, or if it was more of a confidence thing. And now I'm just like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. Like, but it's interesting to notice like the difference, right? So somebody put in the comments here.
One thing I think about is I'm really strong. Like I'm really headstrong. And I think about like, if I'm struggling when I look at other people's content or I'm following other people, I'm like, man, no one else has got a chance. Like I hate to say that, but I'm like, I'm fucking strong. Like I'm able to like fully look it deep in. I've spent like 10 years self-development. You know, like I said, I go to therapy. I do all this shit to look after myself. I read a book a week. I'm like, if I work that hard on myself and I can't handle it, I'm like, you probably can't handle it yourself. And so you're putting yourself through turmoil. Like mute people,
Yeah.
unfollow.
Yeah. Well, and your focus is just so much better when you're just not overstimulated with all these other ideas. And it's kind of like that diagram. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where it's like a circle in the middle and then there's one arrow just like going straight up, or like 10 arrows going out of a circle when your focus is dispersed and you're comparing yourself and you have 10 million different ideas and you're not really doing any of them, compared to just like one track mind, focus on your own lane and business. And you mentioned you were a wedding photographer, is that right, in the past?
I was. I actually haven't been for the last 2 years. That was my last career now.
Cool. I used to sing in a wedding band like every weekend. So I met a lot of wedding photographers back in the day, and now I sub for a wedding band, but it's kind of funny that we were both in that field. All right. Does anybody have any questions while we're here about marketing, about something you're struggling with sales? This is, of course, going to be on the Health Coach Nation podcast for coaches when it comes out, and service providers. But if any of you are a service provider and you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. Is your name pronounced Jai, right?
Jai,
okay, just want to make sure I say it right on this show. Okay. All right. No questions? Oh, someone said that they mute people on social media, which I think is a good idea if you want to keep your feed light.
There's a question there. How do you gain real followers?
Real followers. All right.
Social media is a bit of an interesting one. Like I think it's so often people treat social media completely wrong. Like social media is social, and it's where we're friends. And for some reason, like in any relationship, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you had a friend that took from you all the time and never gave back to you, you probably wouldn't hang out with that friend. And social media is very much similar to that. So what we do is we like, how do I get followers? How do I get this? How do I grow this? And we do this over and over. And the problem is you're looking at it completely wrong, because you're trying to get from this platform. If you switch that and you said, how can I give? How can I give somebody, you know, maybe some light on my social media account? How could I give some value or something so people come to me? Then the conversation changes, and then people want to hang out with you. People want to prop you up. People want to feature you. People want to be on your stories or whatever it is. I think that's a really good way. And don't forget, it's people. It's not numbers. Like if you got 200 people following you on Instagram, that's a fucking lot of people. Like it really is. And I think so often we just think that you have to have 20,000 people to be successful, and you don't, man. Like I mentor people with 100 followers and they've got like a multi six-figure business, no problem. You know, there's 100 clients there. And so I think that's really important. So when you start treating people, numbers, instead of numbers, you treat them like people, things change the game. I think it's so important. Like I get back to every DM, I get back to every message, I get back to everyone, because I'm like, these are people that are taking the time out of their day to interact with my business and myself. And I'm like, I'm thankful for that. It's the most important, highest task thing for me to do, is to connect to those people, have a conversation with them, jump on a live with them, like whatever it is. I think that's really important. Obviously, the other thing is, it's like connect with other people in your field, like I was saying before, with the same amount of followers as you, or maybe even they go a little bit more, whatever it is. But don't say no just because of a follower count. Like I jump on, you know, there's people that I'll do a live with, they got 200 followers. Like I don't give a fuck. I'm not here for me to prop myself up. I'm like, how can I bring value to your 200 people? That's a lot of people. I would love to collaborate with you. So changing that perspective is one of the most important things. And saying yes more, because everyone always says no, because all of the experts say, like, make sure you say no and protect your time. The problem is anyone that's ever says that does say no is they haven't even said yes enough. There's almost no one I've ever met that said yes enough, and now they're at the point where they should say no. And that blows my mind. So I think volume in this instance, the same as anything with marketing, is really important. Showing up, saying yes, getting yourself out there. What could you be doing right now with anybody? I'll tell you what, it's worth you more right now doing a live video of someone with 200 followers than just sitting there at your desk doing nothing.
For
Like it's,
sure.
yeah.
Wondering, oh, is that going to bring enough value? Yeah. Is that going to be
Yeah, that, I mean,
enough?
that brings no
And you don't
value.
do it. Yes. I'm, that is so, like, you say what I thought, but I never could put the words to it. And the way you just said that, like, say yes, no, and like earn the way to be like, okay, now I can evaluate what opportunities maybe I want to take. So true. Okay, we're gonna take two more questions. And it is, if I have a half a day a week to focus on marketing, what would you focus on?
Well, a couple of things. Like, so I would be strategizing and making something really impactful for that half a day a week, and creating something that you can repurpose on multiple platforms, maybe. So just like Hailey here is like created this live that's going to go on her podcast. She might do a blog over it. She might post it on it as a reel. Like, who knows what she's going to do with it? But now she's like got multiple bits of content that she can create from this one thing. Also, like if she only did one live today or this week, then this was a great one because we can both help each other here. So that's a great way of collaborating. The second thing is sales and marketing is the most important thing in your business. So if you're an entrepreneur, I don't know if you're just a marketer, but if you're an entrepreneur, then it's learning leadership and learning outsourcing. Like, buy back some more time so you can put more time into marketing. For me personally, if I'm writing my own emails, it's taking away from marketing and I'm literally doing the lowest value task in my whole business. So I think about that. If I'm washing my own car, if I'm mowing my own lawn, like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm putting myself down to, $50 an hour opposed to my genius zone where I'm 500 to $1,000 an hour, which is marketing. And so the more people I bring through the door, it's the most important thing in my business. So I put all my time into that. So that's what I would do if I was you.
Love that. Great tips. And what about, how do you show up with energy and motivation when you're not feeling like showing up? You might have already answered this, but
Yeah.
we'll.
I think you got to understand that entrepreneurship, everyone feels like that. And I think we on this weird lens where we think that people just don't, and everyone's just got energy all the time. It really isn't the case. Like, sometimes I don't fucking want to show up, and sometimes it's really hard to get out of bed and really hard to, keep on the grind. Like, I've been grinding for 16 years now, and it's just like it's over and over. I think whenever I do feel like it's really hard for me, I do assess, like, is there something in my daily routine right now that I don't love? Is there something that I don't do that, like, or that I do that I don't love? Is there a client that I don't love working with? Is there a process that I don't love? And then I start thinking about how can I get rid of that thing out of my life? So then my life is going all the way back to all the things that I do love to do. Regardless of how much money it costs, I'll outsource the thing because I'm like, it's creating resistance in my life. I think for me, like, being true to yourself as well, of doing the things that light you up. So if getting on an Instagram story like this doesn't light you up, then you shouldn't do it. Like, if posting a reel doesn't light you up, then you shouldn't do it because you don't love to do it. And that means people don't love to watch the thing that you absolutely hurt yourself to get through to get it done.
Mm.
And so, like, find a platform that you do love, find content that you do love, and again, share from that zone of like, I'm a human. Sometimes I don't feel like showing up, but I'm doing it for you anyway because you deserve it. And I think that's just like a really nice narrative, and it brings the right people into your ecosystem. But again, don't beat yourself up because you can't always show it with energy. And I do believe if you, so personally, like, I show up probably 90% of the time with like fucking crazy energy. Like, I love showing up for work. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning, and I spring out of bed and I'm ready to go, like, before the sun's up, because I do so much work on my why and I have a vision and I have a goal. And for me, I'm like, those things are worth waking up for and it's worth showing up for. And if I don't, I stand to lose, which is going back to where I came from. And I don't want to do that, so that's more painful for me. So the
Mm.
pain of showing up is a lot less painful than me not showing up for my business. So that's the way that I sort of like manage that. I'm like, yeah, I should show up. It's painful not showing up.
Wow. Well said. And I think it's important to highlight, like, sometimes, yeah, the pain of not going back to where we were, that's real for us. And it can be a motivator if used productively, but there's nothing to be ashamed of. If some days you just don't feel like it, doesn't mean there's something wrong with you or you need to judge yourself or anything. It's like, we all have that. We all are humans. We all have emotions. And, it's just, those were some good tips there. Now, there's one more question. How do you find your niche to market to when you are so good at so many things?
Um, that's an interesting question. So if you're so good at so many things, I think it's an interesting one because I do think we get sold like the niche that you got to niche down to one small thing. It is kind of true, and it's also not true. What I have learnt lately, I've learnt like I went full niche, and I was like, yeah, this is the perfect thing. Go real niche, and then everyone's going to buy from you. But there, and everyone says this is not true, but there is a limit. And so I did hit a limit, and then I was like, dang, my niche was too small for how big my ambition is. So what I would do is I would actually like look in to your ambition, your unrealistic goals, and go, what is the vessel that's going to get you there? Because remember this, like if business is a boat or it's a vessel to get you from where you are now to where you want to be, like you can either be crossing the Atlantic Ocean in a little rowboat, you're probably never going to cross it. It's going to be fucking hard to hit that goal just rolling away. So maybe you need a big, ship, or maybe you need something much, much bigger, which means more audience, more reach and things like that. So it really does come down to your goals and what's the most important thing for you. The second thing is like with your niche, you really do like I would always lean towards what's the thing that lights you up, because of course we're all good at everything. Like I'm great at cooking dinner, but I'm not going to be a chef. And so I think about like what is the thing that makes the biggest impact, that brings me the most light and the most happiness. And then from there, I'm like, okay, I could find other people that would benefit from me bringing that to the world. And so if there's a real marketplace there and actual hungry people, then I probably should open the cafe. I think that's one of the most important things. Just to sort of finish on that analogy, remember, no one goes to a dead cafe. I have had a cafe before and I went bankrupt doing it. I learned this the hard way. But so with the cafe, like the most important thing, like we always ask the question, like where's the best location for a cafe? Is it, is it beachfront, or is it where there's high traffic people walking past? And the answer is neither. It's where there's hungry people. And so often we think like, oh, there's a lot of people here. Maybe this is the perfect place for a cafe. But it's like, if people are not hungry right there, then that's probably the bad spot. Like if people can't stop their car there to get food, if it just makes no sense where it is, it doesn't matter how good, if you got the best burgers in the world, you get the best whatever, like you're probably not going to do it right. So what you do is you go out and find the hungry people and solve the problem for them. Like do it for them instead of for yourself, because it's so much easier to sell them what they want than it is for you to sell what you want to people that don't fucking care about what you have.
So true. Yes. So it's the balance of what you feel you're best at, what lights you up, where there is demand and need, who you want to serve, and if are they around, right? And what's the potential with all of that. And for people who want to check out my free niche marketing training, that's at HaileyRowe.com. It talks a little bit about niching, but I agree with you. Like your niche and message too is allowed to evolve. So if you want to start, if you're really good at a lot of things, that's a good problem to have. Just pick something that kind of meets what we just talked about and go do it, instead of, trying to do everything all at once, all right now, just make a decision, right? One person, okay, last question. And this is a really thoughtful question. I like it. What's the biggest goal
Awesome.
you have set for yourself, and how long did it take you?
Yeah, interesting. I've actually had a lot of goals because one big goal was like when I was growing up, we were homeless for quite a few years, and then we went into government housing and stuff like that. So I had a very turbulent upbringing. There was a lot of domestic violence, a lot of drug use. My dad was a drug runner and stuff, and so I grew up in like this space that wasn't where I wanted to be, and I didn't think that's where my story lived. And so for me, it was just getting myself into school and then just trying to finish as much schooling as I could. And I did hit that. I couldn't read and write by the time I was 20, but like I still hit that goal. And then getting my apprenticeship, so I was an electrician. Like I left school when I was 15, and I went and got an apprenticeship, moved out of home, and like doing that, completing that to become an electrician took me 4 years. It was a lot of fucking work, a lot of heartache to get that done. Like a lot of, I had no car, a lot of doing all the things I had to do to make the dream work, getting a second job, getting a third job at the same time to support myself. That was really hard. And then my biggest one of recent years, which is hilarious, was in 2020. At the start of 2020, I set this big goal that I wanted to make $1 million from my coaching business that year. And then we all know what happened. COVID hit, and it was hilarious because I didn't change my goal, and we actually made $1 million on the 31st of December 2020. So the exact
Wow.
year,
Congrats.
it ticked over the exact number, and I just never gave up. Like, I hustled while everyone else was fearful watching the news. I hustled while everyone else was out walking their dog. Like, I hustled my fucking life that year, and I learned a lot of things. I grew a lot, and I just wanted to prove to myself that it doesn't matter about the economy, it matters about my economy, and I can do things regardless of what's happening out in the world. And it was amazing. And it just, again, like, it grows your confidence. You feel good about like achieving something. And again, like, I teach people things that I've done. I don't teach anything that I've never done. And I think that's really important, that I put myself through all this, like all the marketing stuff. Like, my clients have all seen me and how I show up, and the things that I do and the way I collaborate and the times I fail, which is all the time. And I think my clients really appreciate seeing myself, putting myself through the pain, not just telling them to walk through it.
Absolutely. Yes. And what you see on social media, or what you see is the $1 million win. You don't see all of his hustle, all of the things that led up to that, all the stuff he had to work through. So I think it's important that you highlight that and bring that up. And congrats on 2020. I also had a really great year in 2020 in business wise, which I know, that was a crazy, crazy year, but it just goes to show you, and it did teach a valuable lesson of like, what you got going on in here is more, is what dictates your results more so than maybe the world around you all the time. Doesn't mean there won't be challenges, but that is pretty important. So where can people stay connected with you? What we're gonna do is I'm gonna save this to my Instagram feed. So if anybody wants to watch the earlier part and you're just catching the end here, it will be here, but it will also be on the Health Coach Nation podcast in a couple weeks. And I'll tag you in it too, so you can, do whatever you want with it. But where can people stay connected with you and find you?
So I have a podcast called Make Your Break by Jai Long, and that's definitely the best place. Like, I'm on there always sharing tips and tricks and things like that. That's for creative entrepreneurs. I've also got a podcast called Educators Rising, and that's with like coaches, and course creators, membership holders, workshoppers, like people like that. So yeah, I've got 2 businesses going on at the same time. Well, I've actually got way more than that, but they're my 2 big passions, and that's where you can find me and we can have a conversation. Of course, if you want to send me a DM on Instagram, I'll write back to everyone. Love to talk to you. And yeah, thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, and have an awesome day. Thanks everybody for watching.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful, and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.